Hey guys, what's up? Denvito Chips here, and today I'm giving you yet another episode of Denvito Chats. I'm so excited. Today we're going to be talking about a pretty hot topic. Are we taking mental health seriously enough? I'm super excited to crack this open, and just a full disclosure, this is not a political video. This is an opportunity for us to have a conversation about something that is really important in our culture today. But before we jump into the video, please be sure to ring the bell, hit the like button, and comment when you're done. Doing those three little things make a huge difference for content creators like myself. Let's jump into the Denvito Chat. Here's the thing about this whole virus situation is that you've got people on both sides that are either one extreme or the other. You've got the one side that's saying, oh, we gotta shut everything down and, put the tape up and 6-foot distance and masks everywhere you go and this whole sort of thing. But then you've got the other side that says, oh, well, it's just a virus and we'll get through it. Whoever gets sick and it's gonna be okay. Yet regardless of what side of the schism you're on, this virus is a pretty big deal. I mean, we haven't seen something like this on a worldwide scale in a long time. So it is important and it shouldn't be laughed off. With something like this, we should be taking precautions and thinking positively about what are some things that we can do to help prevent the spread. Yet despite the risks of the virus, we should be taking mental health just as seriously. With everything being done to help prevent the spread of the virus, are we doing just as much to help prevent a lack of mental wellness? This is the kind of question that we've got to be willing to ask ourselves, especially in today's pandemic. See, the thing that we have to be careful not to do is to give up old problems for new ones. What I mean by that is the current situation, the current conversation is all about physical wellness. Everything on social media and the news and all around the world, it's all about physical wellness. Yet something that you might do that's good for physical wellness may not be so good for mental wellness. We're essentially pitting physical sickness against social isolation, and that's a problem. One thing that must be looked at is the effects of isolation on the human brain. It can lead to thinking irrationally about certain situations and things, and it can also lead to making little things become very big things in our brains. Maybe there's a situation where something really wasn't that big of a deal, but because of all the isolation that we've experienced, we've now blown it up in our minds to become something that's a lot bigger than it really is. And this is a scary thing, especially when you're dealing with impressionable students and teens and kids that don't have fully developed minds yet and can lead to a lot of dangerous paths. Another thing worth looking at is the effects of isolation on our emotions. A lot of us can oftentimes feel depressed or discouraged, suffering from a lack of human connection, which is something that we were created for. Now, this is important for us to talk about because oftentimes we try to remedy that isolation with technology. We say things like, oh, you can FaceTime, you can phone call, it's the same thing, we can Zoom everything. Well, not really. We really can't, because if that were the case, we wouldn't travel thousands of miles to go visit family. The fact of the matter is, there is a significant difference between using technology to connect with people and actually having a human connection with people. This is something that we quite literally were created for. In short, technology will never be the equivalent of the human connection. For those of you that don't know, as a kid and a teenager, I struggled a lot with a little something called OCD. For those of you guys who know the acronym but not the actual stand-in for that, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. And this is something, like I said, I dealt with a lot in my childhood and teen years. Essentially, as a kid, I was very adventurous and I loved talking to people, but I was really awkward and kind of rough around the edges. And so my parents were always trying to create environments for me where I was able to connect with other friends and other kids, and even as a teenager, tried to put me to social environments, but it was something that I just really struggled with. I didn't click super easily with a lot of kids and people. So that ultimately led me to leading a more isolated lifestyle. I had opportunities to connect with other people, but I didn't want to. I isolated myself a lot of the time. I also came to realize as I got older that I struggled severely with OCD. Now here's the thing, if you don't know much about OCD, that is not a good combination with isolation. And that's exactly what I was dealing with. It led me down some really dark paths where I was just struggling with self, struggling with feeling mentally well, and it led to a lot of problems. It took people like my dad to show me that human connection was so important. And obviously God and faith and all those things were important as well. I grew up with those things, but human connection was an essential part of me getting through that isolation that I had created in my own life. The danger of combining isolation with OCD is the fact that when you have a compulsive disorder, you obsess over certain thoughts and you really get into your own head. And this is something that I did all the time as a teenager. I would take these little things, these little thoughts and ideas, and I would obsess over them. So if I was feeling insecure about myself or depressed or discouraged, I would hone in on that to a T, and I'd make myself sick. I'd make myself miserable, because not only do I have this condition, but now I'm also cut off from people. And that was a big problem. Now, not everybody has OCD, yet if you put people in an isolated situation and you keep them there, the potential problem is that they're gonna get into their own thoughts, and it's gonna bring about certain issues and problems that are really difficult to navigate. And truth be told, we're already seeing the negative notations of isolation like this in our society and culture today. You've got people that otherwise would have been mentally well, but since isolation has now come into their lives, and to a very extreme extent, now problems are beginning to arise as far as their mental wellness. So what exactly is the middle ground with all of this? Here's the thing, is that we all should be willing to do whatever we can to help prevent the spread of the virus to a more reasonable extent. But we shouldn't be doing it at the expense of our own mental health. Despite varying opinions and persuasions, we should be trying our best to try and meet at the middle. Someone struggling with a physical problem should not be held at a higher standard than the person that's struggling with a mental problem. So in an ideal world, how exactly would you go about this? We should all be willing to take a stand for what we believe, but while also looking to the needs of the other person. We gotta strive and be willing to meet someplace in the middle. Neither side of this conversation is right or wrong, but we all should be willing to compromise a little bit when it comes to our own needs, as well as the needs of other people around us. And I know what you're thinking. This all probably sounds a little too idealistic. And here's the thing, is I understand that. I know where we live, and I know the society that we're in, and I know how the political game of it all works and all these different things. But the truth is, we have to be willing to create positive conversation about this. Because if all we're doing is going on social media and blasting other people that don't believe what we believe, we're not gonna get anywhere. But if we are willing to have a conversation and say, hey, what are my needs? What are your needs? Now, how can we meet in the middle? If we're willing to do that, we'll see positive outcome. And here's the hard truth about this kind of topic is that all of us are comfortable with talking about physical wellness, but not everyone is comfortable about talking about mental wellness. And the reason why this is important is you're gonna have a lot of people, maybe even friends and family, people that you know around you, that are struggling with their mental health, and they're not even gonna say anything about it. Because in a sad way, we've created this environment in our culture where it's kind of something to be ashamed of admitting that, well, I struggle with feeling mentally well. Here's the thing, is that we do not want to create an environment where people feel scared or afraid to admit that they're struggling with their own mental wellness. I myself have had my own bouts with mental health here recently. And I'm gonna be real, I am normally a really excitable, energetic person, but a mix of rainy weather with a bunch of isolation, it's been hard on my mental health. And I personally have been working through this. And so I share with you as someone that's dealing with this and has dealt with this, that mental health is important. It is so important. And we have to be willing to make it a priority just as much as any other priority that's been put on the table at this point. We have to acknowledge the risks and the struggles that are there. And like I said, if we can do that, if we can create this conversation and create an environment where people feel comfortable and open and welcome to share about their mental struggles, we're gonna find ourselves in a very positive place. And there you have it. That's the end of this Denvito Chat episode. I'd love to hear your own thoughts on this. But now remember, this is a positive conversation about mental health. So I encourage you, if you're gonna comment, leave something positive, create constructive conversation, and that's just gonna help the whole conversation all in all. So if you'd be willing, comment in the comment section below after the end of this video and let me know what your thoughts are. And before you go, please be sure to ring the bell, hit the like button, and like I said, comment when you're done. This has been Denvito Chips. Thanks so much and take care, guys.